Today is the day, guys. Good morning. Hello. Oh my goodness me. I am currently sitting by myself in my hotel room in Manila. I have spent the last 2 weeks in the Philippines, and today I am actually flying back to Melbourne to meet my boyfriend who has been in Australia for the last 2 weeks, and we are about to start the next chapter of our lives there. I'm so excited, guys. When I flew into the Philippines, I was feeling quite anxious. I was feeling like, have we made the right decision? What are we doing? Have we taken a step backwards? Also feeling so excited, but don't get me wrong, I don't want you to think those doubts weren't there, because they were. And I was very much like upset because I just said goodbye to my whole family. I also then had to say goodbye to Tom in Thailand, and he flew onwards to Melbourne and I flew to Manila. And it was just a whole stress, and I felt very like on it. I've had 2 weeks to sit with all of those thoughts. I've had the best 2 weeks hosting a group tour here in the Philippines. If you've not seen those vlogs, they're already up on my channel. And that has given me the clarity and the space and the time that I needed. And now I have not one single feeling of upset or doubt boarding this plane to Melbourne. I'm so excited to go to the airport, to get on that plane, to hear them say like, welcome to Australia. I genuinely sort of do feel as though I'm going home in like a really silly way. I know it sounds ridiculous. I lived in Melbourne for about 6 months in 2023. I visited the city again earlier this year, and every time I go there, it just feels like something is pulling me towards that city. I don't even know what. I'm not a spiritual person, I'm not a religious person, but I just feel like this deeper calling to be like, you need to be in Melbourne right now. And I get it all the time. It's really weird. So yeah, I'm flying to Melbourne. I'm meeting my boyfriend. He started a job there 2 weeks ago. He's currently in the middle of trying to find us a flat, which is now gonna be my job to take over once I get there tomorrow. So we're gonna be doing lots of flat hunting, lots of like bits and bobs. He has currently been house sitting for our friend Daryl, who is one of the co-owners of Welcome to Travel. So that is where we've been staying. I haven't been staying there. That's where Tom has been staying. And we are house sitting his house until the end of October. So we have 2 weeks to try and get our stuff together, to try and find somewhere to live. I hope you can't hear the absolute chaos of Manila out of the window. The sound is just like constant. There's planes, there's buses, there's trains, it's so noisy. But yeah, if you couldn't tell, I'm pretty giddy. And I'm also obviously so bloody excited to see Tom. Haven't seen him for a fortnight. In the scheme of things, it's really not that long. Tom and I are quite used to like going a couple of weeks, maybe even like a month without seeing each other, just because I've been traveling like this on and off for the last 3 years. But I'm so excited. He's coming to pick me up from Melbourne Airport. He has a car at the moment that he's also just borrowing from a friend. So yeah, I think that's definitely what's helping it feel like I'm going home. I know Tom's gonna pick me up. I know we're going to a house, not a hostel, not a hotel. It just feels so lovely. So welcome to the video. Let's travel into Australia. So I am now in the airport, although it's very noisy. I've actually just thought about this and I don't know if you'll be able to hear me. Hopefully you can. I haven't attached the microphone. Guys, all of my belongings after this time in the Philippines are just scattered all over everywhere. So I found my little mic and I did just record this, and then for some reason clicked delete. Don't know how that happened, but I'm currently through. It took me about 30 minutes, so all good, easy breezy. I will say I'm flying with Cebu Pacific, and they are very much a budget airline. Like, it's the equivalent of flying 9 hours with Ryanair. You do not get food, you don't get drinks, you have to pay for all of that stuff, but also the food and drink options just are not great. Like, lots of random meat dishes, which as a vegetarian, not good. So I'm about to go and buy some snacks. Boarding starts in 20 minutes, so yeah, it's going to be a long day. I'm going to try not to sleep because obviously it's a daytime flight. I land into Melbourne at midnight. I'd really rather just not mess up my body clock, because it took me a while to get over the... Well, it didn't take me a while to get over jet lag. I think I just kept prolonging jet lag by staying out really late, and I don't really want to do that. I feel like I'm on the right time now. I feel like the Philippine time zone is pretty similar to the Australian time zone. It's only actually 3 hours different, so like there's no reason for me to be jet lagged. Gonna go and find some snacks. Oh God, it's gonna be a long day. Now I am in Melbourne, and I didn't really film very much. Basically, as you saw, I flew from Manila into Melbourne, and then when I landed into Melbourne, Tom picked me up from the airport, and that was kind of where the day ended, because by the time we got back to the house that we're staying in currently, it was 2 a.m. guys, and Tom had to be up for work at 6:30. So that was really not very ideal, and also obviously meant that our priority was just like, let's ditch everything, we'll sort everything out tomorrow, let's just go to sleep. And that's basically where we are are at. And that has been a couple of weeks, guys. I didn't continue this video, but I did mention in one of my last videos that I had an absolute nightmare when it comes to the visa situation. So I thought instead of doing this as a travel vlog, I'd actually update you guys as like a story time, because genuinely it was a lot. And I filmed some clips on my phone during this period, but like, yeah, I feel like I've said this to everybody that I've seen in real life during like the last month, but I just have felt so overwhelmed and so like I'm running at empty. And like my brain is trying to multitask on like 20 different tasks. And that was me for a lot of my time in the Philippines because of the visa situation. So basically, to give you a rundown and to not get too boring, but also because quite a few people asked for a story time, I am currently in Australia on a working holiday visa. It is their 417 working holiday visa, which you have access to if you are a British citizen between the ages of 18 and 35. And you can access a second year and a third year now without having to do any regional work if you have a British passport. And we basically knew that we were coming out to Australia from August. So like early August was when Tom got the job offer like officially. And that meant that we actually didn't have very long to try and prep. Like he knew he had to start on October the 1st. It was already early August. You're looking at less than 8 weeks, and it can take up to 12 weeks to clear a visa. Can you see where the issues are going to come in here? I had an extra spanner thrown in the works because I knew that I probably couldn't travel on my old passport. So I uploaded a TikTok during the summer. It looked a bit like this.
Come with me to get a brand new passport because I do not have time to wait for one to come back in the post, so I'm actually going to the passport office to claim an emergency passport.
And that was me going to get a brand new passport because I had 3 pages left of my old one. But I knew that if I wanted to travel from within Australia, say if I went back to Southeast Asia or to any country where they stamp you in, my passport would get full so quickly. Then once your passport's full, you can't travel on it. So can we see the headache, right? The reason I couldn't do this as soon as we found out that we had a date, like to leave, the reason I had to wait to get my passport, because I got my passport at the end of August, was because I had 2 trips planned and booked on the old passport. So obviously all the flights were booked with my old passport number. I just couldn't, I just literally was like, I don't have a gap in the schedule here where I can get a passport, which is why I had to go to London and actually get one in person, because I still definitely wouldn't have had time. It was all such a stress. All of these little things just kept cropping up and I was like, oh, I can't do it until like the middle of August. And then I remembered I had another trip planned, and then I was like, I can't do it till the end of August. Bearing in mind, by the end of August, we then had 5 weeks to clear a visa. On the website, it does say 90% of visas processed within 24 hours. So I was not worried or concerned. And my last visa that I applied for to get into Australia cleared within 24 hours. So I thought it's fine. I don't need to worry about it. I've got 5 weeks. I applied immediately as soon as I got my new passport for a working holiday visa. And immediately it flagged back and came back as declined, because this was an issue Tom and I had last time. And I will just briefly go into it because it could be useful for any of you guys, because I think that this is something I had not seen other people talk about and only knew about because it happened to us last time. But because we spent more than 90 days in one go, is that the chair squeaking or is that the dog squeaking? Let me just check on the dog. That must have been the chair squeaking because the dog's fine. Yeah, we're currently dog sitting. I think I did explain that. Anyway, because back in 2022, Tom and I spent over 90 days in one go out of the country. So there's this question when you're applying for a Australian passport that says, have you spent more than 90 days out of your passport country of origin in the last 5 years? These are very specific terms, right? And for most people, well, actually, I don't even think that's true. For a lot of people, you're gonna click no, because 90 days is a long time. It's like, have you spent more than 3 months in one go out of your country? But anybody that's backpacked in Southeast Asia for longer than 3 months and then comes to Australia, which I would say there's quite a similarity between like the amount of people backpacking Southeast Asia or South America, then coming over to Oz on a working holiday visa, this must happen quite often. Anyway, because we ticked yes to that, because obviously you can't lie because it's linked to your passport, so they know anyway, it flagged up immediately as declined because we needed additional health examinations. Now, this is where the plan just goes like out the window, guys, because Tom has to start this job on the 1st of October. Like, that is in the contract. That was just what had to happen. We both booked for a health examination, and I knew that I had 2 weeks longer than Tom because of my trip to the Philippines. So I didn't book to go with Tom to have the health examination because the week he went, I was really busy. In fact, it was the week that I was in Sweden, I think, filming these videos, which I'd planned, to be honest, kind of bad timing, but also like I had like work commitments on and stuff. I just couldn't do it that day that Tom went. So I called the Manchester Health Examination Office, which was our nearest one. We explained this in our like coming over to odds video, but there's only 4 clinics in the UK that you can have this done at. We don't live near any of them. So I called the Manchester clinic and I said, hi, like, can I book an appointment? And then they were like, oh no, we're fully booked for the next 3 weeks. And I was like, what? My boyfriend literally just came yesterday. And they were like, yeah, we're fully booked now. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have 3 weeks. So I called the London clinic and they're like, yeah, we can fit you in next week. This is still another week, guys, right? It's another week. I go, I have the health examinations. Obviously everything comes back fine. And I'm then looking at about 3 weeks before I'm expecting to land into Australia. And from there, nothing happens, guys. Like, there is no update. There's no update on the visa status at all. Like, I can't see if the health examinations have been added into my visa from my end. The IMI website, the immigration website for Australia, not the best, guys. It's not the best. And I would know because I've spent a lot of hours on it, like hours and hours. And basically their official guidance is, please do not call us if you haven't heard back, because it can take up to 12 weeks, right? So from the get-go, I only had 6 weeks. So it was optimistic. I knew that I was cutting myself short and I know that's my own fault, but the sequence of events that came before it, do you understand how that happened? I feel like when I was telling people this, they were like, okay, but why weren't you more organised? And I feel like I've been as organised as I could be. Thankfully, Tom's came back within 24 hours, so he was fine, and it was obviously much more of a priority for us that Tom got into Australia and I just worked it out. So I go on my Philippines group trip and I have had nothing back. I haven't had any updates. I've not had any confirmation from the clinic in London that they even sent it off, even though now I know that they did. So I call them, apart from I can't call them because I'm in the Philippines and I have an eSIM, and my eSIM wouldn't let me call through to the UK. So then I unlock my UK SIM, right, to use it in the Philippines, to call the London clinic because they won't speak to anybody else. Tom had tried calling, I asked my mum to try calling, they would only speak to me, obviously, because it's like medical records. It was honestly such a faff. And they're like, yes, we've submitted it, like, here's an updated email, sorry, whatever. And that was fine. So then I think, okay, whilst I'm having these phone calls, this was all in the middle of posting a group trip. I was literally on a boat making these phone calls. I was like, right, I'm gonna call the immigration office. So I call the immigration office because I just wanted to check that they had the update because I still couldn't see it. Anyway, I sat on hold for 30 minutes. I do not get through to anybody at the immigration office. Eventually, this really lovely lady, and she was really kind, she picks up and she's like, I wanna see what I can do to help you. Let me put you back on hold and transfer you to the right department. I think, okay. Then the phone call disconnects because I'm using a UK SIM in the Philippines and it doesn't like it. It's really struggling. £100 that cost me. £100 to unlock my SIM, and I was like, oh, I just won't put a cap on it, I'll just put unlimited. I thought it would be like 30 quid. I thought if I get into Australia, it's worth £30. Why did my phone bill come to £100? That made me feel sick, and I didn't even solve the problem. I spoke to one lady for maybe 3 minutes, and then I got put back on hold and the phone call disconnected. And then I was like, right, do I call back? And I thought, for £100 a phone call, absolutely not. So I got Tom to call from Australia, but they won't talk to Tom because he's not the account holder. Oh my God, guys, can you imagine my stress at this point? And I was thinking, I know these are like such first world problems, but I also think it's important to highlight that it's not always like sunshine and rainbows. And it wasn't really anybody's fault. Like, there's nobody to blame. I'm not sat here thinking, God, the immigration team at Australian immigration are terrible. Like, it wasn't that. And they had said, you know, it could take up to 12 weeks of processing. So eventually I managed to call back on a Wi-Fi phone call, and it's like over the hotel internet, and I'm trying to get through, and I speak to this lady, and this lady goes, oh, if your partner is already within the country, he's probably best trying to sort it from the internal Department of Home Affairs helpline rather than calling from an external phone line. Tom has just started this new job, and the only time you can call the helpline is between 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, right when he's working. So I was like, in your lunch hour, could you just try to get through to somebody, because I can't call them, and I think you're gonna have a better chance of speaking to somebody from within the country because it goes through to like a separate help desk. Anyway, he did manage to get through to somebody, and he spoke to them, and they said, look, for you to be the one that we speak to, I have to give over my rights to like the visa application to Tom, and then I have to submit that saying that I've waived my rights as like the account holder, and now the account holder is somebody else. So I do that, I sign this paperwork, I name Tom as the like trusted person on the account, and then he can talk to the Department of Home Affairs for me. So he does that, and they say, look, generally if 2 people submit an application together and one person gets into the country and the other doesn't, we'll prioritize that as like this needs to be sorted out, because obviously they couldn't give me any guidance. I think if they had said, look, it's going to take 2 weeks, then I could have made a decision. I could have stayed in the Philippines for 2 weeks, I could have gone to visit friends I have in Thailand, or I could have chosen to go home. And I think they were 3 things that I was really considering, and I didn't know what to do for the best because I didn't know the time frame. And I said, look, I know you might not be able to speed the process up, but could you give like a rough estimate? Like, are we looking at 3 or 4 days, or are we talking about another 4 weeks? Because that really changes my plan, and it was making me so anxious. Like, I filmed a couple of clips. I'll insert them here. This is a little visa situation update that hopefully I can share after we actually have the visa. T-minus 4 days out from me supposedly moving to Australia to join Tom, who has already been there for like 2 weeks nearly, but it's causing me so much anxiety, so much stress. I have not had a full night of sleep in the full 2 weeks that I've been in the Philippines. Like, I have been checking my emails every single hour of the night because obviously like, the time difference. And this morning, Tom's actually managed to get through to the Australian Embassy, not the Australian Embassy, the Department of Home Affairs, who are very hard people to get in contact with, may I just add. It's like you are constantly just given AI to speak to. Like, you just cannot get a hold of a human being. There's no help online for this. It's actually making me feel so unwell. Like, things don't usually stress me out, but this is something that I just feel like is so out of my control that, like, if you were ever wondering who the most frequent visitor to the Australian immigration website is, it's me. It's me. Also, firstly, the actual state of me kind of is a reflection of this. But this is my 4th visa application into Australia, 2 tourist visas and 2 working holiday visas. Every single one has come back immediately. And the visa is the exact same. Like, we've entered every bit of information identically. There's really no difference. You never know what's going on behind the scenes. I've posted all of this content from the Philippines. In actuality, I feel like I have been on high alert the entire time that I've been here, which sounds dramatic, but I think it's just the not knowing. It's just the not knowing is really bothering me. So yeah, live, laugh, love, I guess. And honestly, guys, I'm not somebody that really stresses about things. Like, if something goes wrong, my attitude usually is like, oh, we'll work it out. Like, there's always a way. Worst case scenario, you can pay for another flight if something like that happens. This was making me feel so anxious because I just didn't know what I was doing after the trip. And also another flaw is to get into the Philippines, you need proof of an outbound flight. So I had booked my outbound flight to Australia. I know their official guidance is please don't book inward travel until you have a visa. I obviously wasn't going to take the flight if I didn't have the visa, but I had it booked and I had it paid for. And I had booked a like movable flight. You know how you can pay a little bit more to like have a movable flight? I had done that. So I was thinking, okay, do I need to stay in the Philippines? If I do, where am I going to go? I need to sort accommodation. If I'm not going to do that, am I going to Thailand, or am I going to see if I can get a cheap flight back to London? Because that was, at this point, that was what I wanted to do. I was like, I'm so stressed. I don't really have a plan. I could go home and it would be possibly cheaper. Like, if this is going to be like a 4 or 5 week thing, I'd rather wait at home. Like, I can work from home. My family are obviously there. My friends are there. If I can't be with Tom in Australia, I'd rather just go back to London at this point. So I was like on Skyscanner, like cheap flights to Heathrow, cheap flights to Bangkok. Like, I was just trying to have backup options because I just didn't know what to do. And all the girls on the trip were like, oh, do you have any updates? And every day I was like, no, I don't have any updates. And I felt so bad because I felt like my attention was not 100% on that trip, and I felt genuinely like I was letting people down, which then also was making me beat myself up in my head because I was like, these people have come on this trip expecting you to be on your A game, and I just was not. And I was like on the phone to Tom at every given opportunity to try and be like, okay, I've read this online, we could try this, we could try that. And eventually he got through to this lovely man who was like, look, obviously it's a priority if one of you has been left behind for us to fast track this process. So we think that you should submit a cover letter explaining that to your visa. And I was thinking, what is the point? Like, nobody's looked at my visa. I can see from my immigration account that it's just sat at processing and it's just being held for no reason. So I said to Tom to ask him, and this was the other thing, it was very much like, you know that scene in Harry Potter where they're like, Ron told Hermione to tell me to tell you, and I was like, that's my life right now. I was telling Tom to tell him to ask, and I was just like, oh my goodness me. So anyway, I got Tom to ask the guy if there was any reason why it would be being flagged or being held and not getting processed automatically, because that's how it should be processed. And he was like, no, this just happens sometimes. And I was like, fair enough, there's nothing that anybody can do. So all I'm really asking for is a timeline. Like, that's all I wanted to know. And he was like, submit a cover letter explaining that your boyfriend's already in the country and that you were offered a job and that that's how this has happened. whatever. So I submitted a cover letter. I basically felt like I was begging to be let in. I was like, dear Australian government, please. No, I wasn't, and I'm not gonna lie, ChatGPT did help me write it, because I was like, what do you even say in a cover letter for like the government? Anyway, so I submit that, I reattach it, and he has said, call us back once you've done that. Tom calls them back, and they go, okay, we can see that you've like updated it from our end. We'll send it to somebody else in a different department to see if they can fast track it. So I was like, all right, they definitely can't, because everything online, everything you read is like, these applications can't be fast tracked, please don't call us. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna be an annoying little bitch and keep ringing, because I don't know what to do here. Like, there's not a solution, and I don't really feel like just sitting and waiting around in the Philippines for potentially up to 5 weeks. Like, I was like, this is really throwing everything out the window. I had jobs lined up that I had to film once I got to Australia. I was like, this is just throwing so much into the air that honestly, I think looking back at it now rationally, I know that I was overreacting partially, but it was sending me into such an anxiety spiral. Like, some of the girls that I was with on that Philippines trip witnessed it firsthand. My friend Cleo, bless her, every single day I was like, oh my god, I just feel like I can't breathe. Like, I just feel like I was like constantly on the verge of crying. And then I was like, this is horrible. This is not how I want to be spending this trip. And then anyway, this cover letter gets submitted, and 24 hours later, which by this point, guys, it's 48 hours before my flight, it comes back as approved. And I literally cried. I was in a co-working space in El Nido, and I started crying because I was just, not even because I was happy, I mean I was happy, but I was just so overwhelmed and drained and tired from this that I was like burst into tears. I would not wish that on anybody, because there's no official help or guidance online anywhere. Trust me, I've read every single web page on the Australian Home Affairs website. I have read it. I've read everything. I've clicked all of the links. I've gone down the rabbit holes. I was like knee deep in Reddit threads of other people that this has happened to. And apparently it's like quite a common issue if you've like previously been in the military, or if you've had any form of like army background, like your visa gets flagged and then it seems to get held at processing. So I was like reading so many of these threads on Facebook, and I was thinking, my God, I never even thought about this before. And what a privilege it even is. I do want to stress, and I really, really mean this, what a privilege it is to even be able to get this visa, to even be able to live and work in this country, and that is a privilege that comes with the passport and that comes with the updated laws, and I don't take that for granted. I am not sat here complaining at all about like the working holiday process or anything like that. I really, really want to stress that I'm not being ungrateful, because throughout all of this, I knew that I'd get here eventually. It was just like a when, and I kept like calculating it from like the submission date, and I was like, the worst case scenario, I will get there like mid-December. That's not what I wanted, but like at the end of the day, it's not that deep. Like, I would have survived. I just more so was feeling so anxious because there was so little certainty, and I think that I've not felt that before, like ever, when it comes to traveling, because usually a lack of certainty means it's still in my control. This was just like I've got about 5 options. I don't know which one to do. I don't want to do any of them. I want to be told that I can go meet Tom in Australia. Obviously, also bear in mind, Tom's just started a brand new job. That's overwhelming. He's adjusting to a huge time zone shift after a 35-hour travel day. I was just like, this is a lot. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot to deal with. And it's sorted now, so I can look back retrospectively and think, God, what a journey it was to get here. And it actually, I think in some ways, now looking back that it's done, I think it did sort of help me realize how much I wanted this, because when I flew out to the Philippines, I was like obviously very sad to have left home. I felt really gutted that I wasn't going to see my family for such a long time. I was like not doubting if we'd made the right decision, but obviously when you leave, you do have all of those feelings and they're quite overwhelming. This time that lasted for maybe 2 days, and then I was like, all I want is to get a letter of approval saying I can go to Australia. Like, that was the forefront of my brain. It was keeping me up at night. I did not have one full night of sleep the whole time I was in the Philippines. I was checking my immigration account at like 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 6 in the morning, just refreshing. It was like an addiction. I was literally obsessed with being on that website because I was like, maybe it'll change, maybe it'll change, maybe it'll change. Spoiler alert, it never did. And also, they sent you an email anyway. Like, I don't know why I thought I had to refresh the website manually. So yeah, it was a lot. And then I think that I went straight from that to being here, where we've been house sitting, and then we were very, very quickly flat hunting, and that has been relentless. And I've just felt overwhelmed, guys. I've just felt like there's actually a lot of logistics that come with moving to the other side of the world. And I didn't experience this last time because we were a lot more organized further in advance. We were backpacking for the first 8 weeks, so we had everything booked and planned, and it was like very much fun when we landed. It was like just lots of like traveling, backpacking, nights out, the best welcome to Australia that you could imagine. Whereas this time it felt like an absolute nightmare to even try to get here. And then once we've got here, it's just felt like relentless flat hunting. So I definitely think there's been a vibe shift. And I would say the last 4 weeks, my main emotion has just been stressed and overwhelmed and exhausted. And I think now I can sit back and I think, do you know what? I'm so ready for this chapter. I'm so excited for it. I feel like I've got all of my ducks in a row, or whatever the saying is. But it's taken a while to get here, and I wanted to explain it because I think I can probably answer a lot of your questions if you're going through something similar. And my main advice, and my advice to anybody, would be make sure that you know a date more than 12 weeks in advance if you know that your visa might get flagged for whatever reason. Mainly, be it previous travel outside of your home country for more than 90 days, or apparently military service. And I'm sure there are loads of others as well, but they're just two big ones that I came across when I was researching a lot of this. In some way that might be helpful to some people. If not, then you've just listened to a story time of how my month of October descended into absolute chaos. I don't want woe-is-me comments because it was self-inflicted. If we had just either pushed the start date back of Tom's job or known initially that we just could not make that work and been a bit more sensible, maybe it would have been different. And you know, if I were to do it again, I would definitely be more organised and definitely be like, look, I can't decide 5 weeks before leaving that I'm going to move my life to Australia, because that's not enough time. It's not enough, especially with like my travel history and my passport record. Anyway, we're here. We made it and we're done. So I'm gonna wrap this video up. I'm sorry it was so long and it was just a sit down chat in the end, but hopefully you have enjoyed it. I am so excited to get on with the Melbourne content, the Australia content. From here, just to give you a little rundown, there's gonna be a birthday vlog, a first week back in Australia, flat hunting kind of vlog, and then a moving series, because we have found somewhere to live and I'm very excited about it. We're not in it yet, we are house sitting currently. So I think there's probably gonna be 4 or 5 early weeks in Australia, Melbourne based content before I move back to sort of like challenge and travel style. Hopefully you guys understand that. It's been a journey, it's been a minute. I've felt out of my depth to be honest. But thank you so much for watching, for sticking with me, for subscribing, for commenting. So many people have been so lovely and reached out over DMs and like just offered a friendly face or kind words, or the girls that have reached out to me that actually live in Melbourne. I think that's so lovely of you guys. And now that I feel like I'm able to take a step back and breathe a bit, I want to get on it and like reply to people and meet up with people and like put myself out there a bit more, but I've just not had the mental capability to do that yet. Yeah, thank you so much for bearing with me. Gonna wrap this up because I've got a dog to walk. Thank you so much for watching. Do subscribe if you haven't already, and I shall see you with my first Australia video back very soon. Bye!